I need you to take a breath before this one, because what you're about to hear doesn't sit easy in the chest. For months, people swore this chapter was sealed shut, burned, buried, and never coming back. The pain was too public. The humiliation was too loud. The wounds were too deep. And yet, late one night, a single blurry screenshot started moving through fan pages like a ghost nobody invited. A familiar face, a familiar smile, and two names that were never supposed to appear together again. Big Ed Brown, Rose Vega, reconcile. That one word alone was enough to shake the entire 90-Day Fiancé universe, because if this is true, then everything we thought we knew about closure, about healing, about walking away for good, suddenly feels fragile. I remember staring at my phone when I first saw it, thinking, no way. This has to be fake. Clickbait. A cruel joke. Because we all watched that relationship fall apart in real time. We watched Rose cry. We watched Ed spiral. We watched two people become symbols of something much bigger than a failed long-distance romance. And now people are asking the question nobody wanted to ask again. Did they really find their way back to each other? Or is this just another emotional landmine waiting to explode? I know what you're thinking. We've been here before. We've been fooled before. And honestly, I felt that same resistance. That same instinct to protect ourselves as viewers who've already invested so much emotion into their story. But stay with me, because what's been unfolding behind the scenes is messier, more human, and more heartbreaking than a simple yes or no. And before we go any further, if you're someone who's followed Big Ed and Rose since the very beginning, if you've ever argued about them in a comment section, defended one of them, or felt personally angry watching their scenes, you're exactly who this story is for. Make sure you're subscribed to Talent Zone updates, not because of the gossip, but because this channel doesn't just repeat headlines. We sit with the feelings. We talk about what it actually means. And stories like this, they deserve that kind of honesty. To understand why the idea of a reconciliation feels so shocking, you have to go back to where it all began. Big Ed wasn't just another guy on reality TV. He showed up as this awkward, self-deprecating man who leaned into humor to mask years of insecurity. His physical condition, his relationship history, his loneliness, all of it became part of his identity on screen. And Rose was young, hopeful, living a life that demanded strength long before cameras ever arrived. She wasn't chasing fame, she was chasing stability, safety, a chance to breathe without constant worry. When they met, it felt like two completely different worlds colliding. And at first, viewers wanted to believe in it. People root for love, especially unlikely love, but that optimism didn't last long. The power imbalance became impossible to ignore. The comments about her hygiene, the control, the moments where her silence said more than any argument ever could. And when it ended, it didn't just end quietly. It detonated. Rose walking away wasn't just a breakup. It was a declaration. It was her saying, "I know my worth now." And the audience rallied behind her. Big Ed, on the other hand, became one of the most controversial figures the franchise had ever produced. Some felt sympathy, others felt disgust. And that divide never really healed. After the cameras stopped rolling, both of them changed in public ways. Rose bloomed online. Her confidence grew. Her smile looked different. She built a following that wasn't about pity, but admiration. Big Ed leaned into his villain status, then tried to soften it, then seemed to embrace the chaos all over again. Every interview, every relationship after Rose felt like it was haunted by her shadow. So when whispers started that they'd been communicating again, fans didn't react with excitement. They reacted with anger, confusion, fear. TikTok exploded with videos stitched together, creators shaking their heads saying things like, "Rose, please don't do this," and "We didn't protect you all these years for this ending." Twitter, or X, turned ruthless. One tweet that went viral read, "If Rose goes back to Big Ed, I'm done believing in character growth." Instagram comments were flooded with broken heart emojis and warning signs. Reddit threads went deep, analyzing timestamps, emojis, even the tone of captions like they were decoding a crime scene. But here's the part nobody was ready for. The story wasn't just about romance. It wasn't even about forgiveness. It was about unfinished emotional business that never got resolved when the world was watching. The first layer of this reveal came quietly. People noticed Rose liking old photos of Ed. Not recent ones, not promotional ones, photos from years ago, the ones taken before everything fell apart. At first, fans brushed it off. Algorithms do weird things, accidental taps happen, but it kept happening, and then Ed followed her again. No announcement, no caption, just a silent digital reconnection. The second layer hit when Ed mentioned in a low-profile interview that he had made peace with his past, and that there were conversations that needed to happen, even if they never led anywhere. He didn't say her name. He didn't need to. Everyone knew. And Rose, almost at the same time, posted a cryptic story that read, "Healing doesn't always mean forgetting. Sometimes it means understanding." That one sentence sent fans into a frenzy. I know what you're thinking, but wait until you hear this. The third layer is where things turn deeply personal. Sources close to both of them claim that the conversations weren't flirty. They weren't romantic. They were raw, painful, full of apologies that were never spoken when cameras were rolling. Ed reportedly admitted to behaviors he had once defended. Rose reportedly confronted him without fear, without tears, without needing his validation. For the first time, the power dynamic was different. And that scared people. Because growth is unpredictable. It doesn't follow the script we want it to. The fourth layer is where social media started to misinterpret healing as romance. A shared song lyric, a similar background in two separate photos posted hours apart. Fans immediately screamed, "Soft launch." But people who've been through real emotional trauma know that reconnecting doesn't always mean reuniting. Sometimes it means closing a door properly instead of slamming it shut in survival mode. Which brings us to the fifth and final layer. The part that changes everything. According to multiple insiders, there was a private, off-camera meeting. No filming, no contracts, no producers, just two people sitting across from each other without an audience. And when they walked away from that meeting, they didn't leave as a couple. They didn't leave as friends. They left as two people who finally said what they were never allowed to say when millions were watching. So a big Ed and Rose reconciling. In the fairy tale sense everyone is terrified of. No, but are they reconciling something much deeper? Their past, their pain, their shared trauma, that's where the truth lives. And yet, here's what keeps fans up at night. Healing sometimes opens doors we thought were locked forever. People change, circumstances change, and closure has a strange way of softening even the hardest lines we draw. Would you ever forgive someone who embarrassed you on a global stage? Could you sit across from the person who broke your heart and not feel your chest tighten? And if you did, would that make you weak? Or brave? That's why this story refuses to let go of us. It's not about whether they end up together. It's about whether people are allowed to grow beyond the worst version of themselves, and whether the world will ever let them. Right now, Big Ed and Rose are standing in that uncomfortable gray space. Not lovers, not enemies, just two humans carrying the weight of a past that made them famous and broke them at the same time. And maybe that's the real reconciliation. Not romance, not redemption arcs, just honesty that arrived years too late. But tell me honestly, if they did choose to try again, after everything, would you believe in it? Or would it feel like reopening a wound that finally started to heal?